Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot we have the hero ant. This is a type of ant that was officially classified in 2014. These ants nest in the ground or in rotten wood, and they were found in Madagascar. The name of these ants comes from this wild technique they have when it comes to an intruder who is invading their territory. Of course, these ants feel a duty to protect their home and their colony, so what do they do when someone threatens their safety? Well, they grab a hold of the intruder and throw them and themselves off of the ant equivalent of a cliff. So far it seems like they are the only species that willingly throws themselves off of cliffs, but hey, it earned them the name of a hero, so maybe it was all worth it. Somehow these ants are able to pick themselves up after the fall and get right back to work. In our number 9 spot today we have Salazar's pit viper. This new green pit viper species was discovered in 2019 and finally classified in 2020. It was first found in the Himalayas and was actually one of 5 new reptile species found in the area that year. If you're a Harry Potter lover, this one might be obvious, but the snake was named after the Harry Potter character Salazar Slytherin. The snake features a dark green head and yellowish green dorsal scales throughout the rest of its body. The males and females of this species have different physical characteristics, with the males having yellow, orange, and reddish orange stripes with a rust-colored tail, which is something that is not seen on the females. The snakes are nocturnal and are often found coiled around shrubs at night. Currently, their habitat is under threat due to developments such as road widening, agriculture, and hydroelectric projects, not to mention the current plans to build a 49-kilometer long road that cuts directly through their habitat. In our number 8 spot today we have the emperor Dumbo octopus. These guys are a new species of Dumbo octopus that was discovered just last year. It was discovered in the Emperor Seamounts in the North Pacific Ocean just off of the coast of Japan. The location of the discovery is where they got their name from, which I thought was important to include because when I first heard their name, I thought it meant that they were huge, which was initially a little concerning. There is actually only one of these species that has ever been found, which was the single specimen that was used to confirm this discovery. Because the specimen was found alive and was the only one we've located, scientists were thankfully careful to use only non-invasive techniques to identify it, which included micro CT scans and 3D imaging. These techniques ensure that the little guy could continue living his life while we can also learn more about it, which truly is the best of both worlds. The one we found was located at a depth of around 3,900 to 4,400 meters in the ocean. In our number 7 spot today we have the deadly sponge. To be perfectly honest, sea sponges have always kind of creeped me out. Like, they're just so different, and it's crazy that they really are alive. But this newly discovered species of sea sponges takes things to a whole new level. These sponges, to something like a shrimp, would probably look like a lovely place to take a little rest stop, but upon closer examination, they're hiding a deadly little secret. While most sea sponges filter water that they flush through their bodies and get nutrients from all of the single-celled organisms that pass through, these species of sea sponges, announced in 2014, have decided that they need a little something more. That's right, these sea sponges are carnivores. These sponges feature these tiny little microscopic hooks on them that act like Velcro for that unsuspecting shrimp. Once snagged by the sponge, after a few hours, the sponge's cells will start to engulf and digest it, and within a few days all that will be left is an empty shell. Definitely one of those circle of life things, but still, it's a little macabre to be perfectly honest. In our number 6 spot today we have the pine Rockland trapdoor spider. Maybe not terrifying to scientists, but definitely terrifying to me. This spider has a bit of an interesting discovery story. This spider species was actually discovered in 2012, but it wasn't really researched and found out to be a new spider species until last year in 2021. When this spider was originally found, it was located by a staff member at the Miami Zoo who was inspecting reptile research traps. When this staff member was unable to identify this spider based on the existing records of spiders in the area, they knew that they had found something unusual. 2 years later, another one of these spiders was found and looked at by experts in the field. Rebecca Godwin, who is a PhD, who is the assistant professor of biology at Piedmont College in Demorest, Georgia, was able to confirm that this spider was in fact a previously undescribed species. After years of research, she was able to officially identify it as a new species similar to a tarantula. This discovery was extremely exciting as it came from an endangered piece of forest that is located in the middle of a city. Researchers have explained that this is just one of the many reasons why it is so important that we work to preserve these kinds of areas so that we don't lose the things we do know, but also those that we don't yet. In our number 5 spot today, we have the deepwater snapper. This new fish belongs to a small genus of bottom-dwelling fish that are absolutely massive. There were previously 3 different species belonging to the genus, but this one marks the 4th. The newer discovered one is seemingly identical to one of the other already discovered species, with the same bright pink color, the same usual ocean depth of around 200 to 400 meters, and they are also both usually found in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. But despite all of this, the genetics of these fish are actually different. The new species also has a few small physical details that set it apart from the others, such as smaller eyes and a black spot on the tip of its upper tail fin. It is believed that this fish had previously been misidentified as the other similar species, and since these fish are usually caught on the same fishing line, this new distinction is incredibly important for fisheries because each fish species needs to be managed differently. The fish was named in honor of Dr. Brian Bowen, who is a researcher at the University of Hawaii, who has spent over 3 decades of his life dedicated to studying marine fish. In our number 4 spot today, we have the false gecko. This is definitely among the smallest of the creatures on this list, measuring at just 42 to 52 millimeters long. These little guys were found on the southeastern tip of the main island of the Philippines, Luzon. Their scientific name comes from their tendency to hide in hollow areas such as logs. They have inverted Y-shaped markings along their entire tail, as well as golden yellow colored eyes, which apparently are reflective. Previous to the discovery of this new false gecko, there were 9 other known species of false geckos, all of which are endemic to the Philippines. Because of their small size, their tendencies to hide, and their camouflage abilities, these little guys are extremely difficult to find, which is definitely part of the reason they are such a new discovery. One of the researchers on the team of scientists who discovered this new species explained that this new discovery just might create a greater appreciation for the biodiversity in the Philippines and will hopefully prompt a better management of the wilderness areas located there. Researchers are currently worried that this brand new species might be close to extinction due to habitat loss. In our number 3 spot today, we have marsupial frogs. These guys were discovered in 2021 and they were found in a protected part of the Amazon rainforest. It is estimated that there is the highest concentration of undiscovered animals in the Amazon, so it really makes sense that we would find a new species here. These frogs feature a green color and they have a coarse, granular, and patternless dorsal skin. They have turquoise colored eyes and their venter doesn't have any sort of splotches, specks, or dots. I'm not gonna lie, I had to look up what a venter is, but I guess it's just like the belly area of the frog. You know, the more you know. These guys are called marsupial frogs because the females hold eggs in a closed dorsal pouch, which is similar to that of like a kangaroo or other kinds of marsupial animals. In our number 2 spot today, we have the enigma moth. This is a type of moth that was discovered back in 2015, and it is regarded as quite an exciting discovery, to be quite honest. While I personally hate moths, this one even has me feeling alright about it. On Kangaroo Island, which is in South Australia, it was discovered that the island, which has been settled since 1836, was holding an insect species that was entirely unknown to science. When these moths were found, they were realized to have more primitive features, so scientists had a job to figure out just how primitive. Turns out these guys are kinda like a living fossil. Even the most primitive moths we know of have jaws. A sign of a more recent moth is that of a tongue, but this newly discovered moth species has neither a tongue nor a jaw. All in all, this discovery is said to have been one of the most exciting in entomology in the last 40 years. One of the reasons these moths might have been hard to pin down is because their adult lives are lived in one single day. In one day they emerge from their cocoon, mate, reproduce, and then die. Definitely a jam-packed day, that's for sure. In our number 1 spot today, we have the bone house wasp. Well, really all you need to know about this one is in its name. These wasps were discovered in southeast China in 2014, and their scientific name was inspired by graveyard bone houses or ossuaries. This is because the females of this species, after they lay eggs, will riddle their home with dead ant corpses. Yeah, not exactly the same sort of nesting I was expecting, but hey, to each their own. Of course, this is thought to potentially make their nest less vulnerable to predators, and the smell smell of the dead ants might even fully deter them and completely camouflage the nest. All in all, while it is of course a survival tactic, it's also quite a gruesome thought. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the bandy snake. Back in 2018, scientists were returning from a sea snake research mission in Queensland, Australia, when they found a brand new species of snake. Of course, this being Australia, land of things that can kill you, this one was venomous. This new species of bandy snake was a startling discovery because bandy is a burrowing snake, so those who found it were pretty surprised to have found it on a concrete block near the sea. It turns out this discovery almost didn't happen as well, as it was realized that this snake had come to that location after slithering over from a pile of rubble that was waiting to be loaded onto a ship. This snake is said to have been visually and genetically different from the other 5 known species of bandy snakes that live on the continent. And our number 9 spot today, we have the Reticulated Siren. Florida is the land of the weird, and this creature certainly is no exception. Scientists back in 2018 found this new species of legless salamander that looks kinda like a salamander, kinda like a snake with gills, and kinda like a leopard. This species is said to be among the largest found in the United States in the last century, so it is no doubt that this was quite the find. Researchers said that the creature is completely aquatic and has a long eel-like body, 2 forelimbs, no eyelids, gills, and a horny beak and a spotted pattern on its skin. What's funny is that, while unknown to science, this creature was locally known and it was referred to as a leopard eel. Scientists, while they appreciated the name, thought that they should change it to something more formal since this animal is neither leopard nor eel. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Brittle Star. This is a species that was found in 2011, but it took 10 years for it to be researched and fully classified, which happened just last year in 2021. This is a species of brittle star that was found during an expedition on the Banque Durand seamount, which is off of the coast of New Caledonia in the Pacific Ocean. This specific brittle star first caught the attention of experts because of 2 atypical features. One was that it had 8 arms. This was unusual because most have 5, and the other unusual feature is their 8 sets of razor-sharp teeth. It is believed that these teeth, which line every jaw, are used to snare and shred their prey. This creature definitely is quite remarkable and is the product of millions of years of evolution, but it is likely the last survivor of an ancient lineage which dates back to the Jurassic period. In our number 7 spot today, we have the zombie frog. This is a type of frog that was first described just last year in 2021. They can be found in French Guiana, and they are nocturnal creatures as well as being ones that primarily live underground. This is exactly what made their discovery so difficult. The frogs thankfully have a unique call sound, which is what allowed researchers to dig through the mud in the middle of the night in order to uncover these elusive creatures. Despite their scary common name, these frogs are not part of the undead. Their name actually comes from what the scientists said they all looked and felt like after digging through the mud all night trying to find these dang frogs. While these frogs and their populations need much more examination and research, it is currently thought that they might unfortunately be endangered. In our number 6 spot today, we have the sheet weaver spider. Until recently, these little spiders lived their lives deep inside a cave in Indiana, completely unbeknownst to science. These guys were described in 2018, and they are quite small, at only about 2 millimeters long. They're like a sort of dusty yellow or tan color, and they are said to have black circles around their eyes. They are best known for their sheet web skills, which are these intricate, flat, tightly woven horizontal webs. The scientific names of these spiders was inspired by Dr. Julian Lewis, who is said to have assisted greatly in the discovery of this new spider species. It is said that this discovery marks the 15th species in the genus and the 5th known to live their lives only in caves. In our number 5 spot today, we have Jonah's mouse lemur. Mouse lemurs are, of course, a group of lemurs who are shy nocturnal primates. These animals are usually found in Madagascar and are the smallest group of known primates in the world, usually growing to around the size of a human fist. Back in 2020, scientists were able to discover a new kind of mouse lemur, which is now being called Jonah's mouse lemur. They were able to distinguish this new species from the others by using genomic data and mitochondrial DNA, as well as just its general appearance. These new ones are slightly bigger than average, and they have a reddish-brown body with white stripes on their nose, thick fur, and small little ears. So far, we have only found Jonah's mouse lemurs in a small lowland rainforest in northeast Madagascar. Unfortunately, with their discovery comes the realization that they are also endangered, which is actually the case for all lemurs, mouse or otherwise. The main threats to their life come from the deforestation currently happening within Madagascar and their natural habitats. In our number 4 spot today, we have the forest bumblebee. These little guys were found by researchers from Sweden in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. The reason they hadn't been previously discovered is because they look identical to another species of bumblebee that had already been discovered, but through genome sequences, we were able to finally realize that there is a distinguishable difference. This discovery has led researchers to believe that there may be even more undiscovered species of bumblebees than previously thought, as well as the fact that the warming of colder regions might be prompting the birth of new species. This is super cool because of course evolution is a thing that takes a lot of time, but it truly is happening all around us all of the time. Because this discovery came just last year, more research will soon be conducted to see just how many species of bumblebees we've been misidentifying. Maybe we're really close to learning about even more new ones. In our number 3 spot today, we have the Central African slender-snouted crocodile. This is a species that was discovered quite a while ago, but it wasn't until just a few years ago that it was realized to be its own species. After 2 main studies into this species, one in 2014 and one in 2018, this medium-sized freshwater species was classified to be the Central African slender-snouted crocodile. These guys can be found from Cameroon to Tanzania, but their discovery came with some bad news. Crocodile expert Matthew Shirley said, quote, "Recognizing the slender-snouted crocodile as actually comprised of 2 different species is cause for great conservation concern." He went on to say, quote, "We estimate only 10% of slender-snouted crocodiles occur in West Africa, effectively diminishing its population by 90%. This makes the West African slender-snouted crocodile one of the most critically endangered crocodile species in the world." While crocodiles are a bit of a scary creature themselves, nothing compares to the news of a newly discovered species being found and at the same time being known to be endangered. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Dragon of Death. Okay, so this discovery is a little different from the others on this list because unfortunately this creature is long extinct, but that doesn't mean its discovery isn't absolutely fascinating. This massive prehistoric creature has been dubbed the Dragon of Death as it once hunted prey from the sky around 86 million years ago. With its wings fully extended, this creature is said to have measured a massive 9 meters or 30 feet from one wingtip to the other. If that wasn't enough, it is also said that this species is as tall as a giraffe, so in just size alone, this creature is absolutely terrifying. While scientists believe that this creature spent most of its time on the ground, they also believe that it may have been one of the first predators to use its wings to hunt prey, as it lived and flew in a time before the evolution of birds. In our number 1 spot today, we have new nematodes. Back in September of 2019, a wholesale tarantula breeder, which for a second, let's just talk about how that sounds like the worst job in the history of jobs. Anyway, this guy contacted a parasitologist named Adler Dillman because there was a mysterious infection that was harming some of his tarantulas and he needed help figuring out what it was. The specimens who were sent for testing were found to have an odd white mass around their mouth area. This led to Adler recognizing these as nematodes. It is said that prior to this, scientists in Europe did identify the first nematodes found on tarantulas, but the research only examined the worms themselves and not the worms as found on the spiders. Adler was able to see this gap in the research and fill it in with some frightening information. Once infected by these worms, tarantulas will begin to exhibit strange behaviors. They will do things like walking around on their tiptoes, they won't eat, and the appendages that control their fangs will stop working. Tarantulas apparently don't need to eat a lot, so it may take a while, but this will eventually prove to be fatal, and the spider will starve to death as a result of these newly discovered worms. While we understand the effects, at this point in time what's left to understand is how these parasites are actually able to change the tarantula's behavior. Also, the scientific name of these guys is named after Jeff Daniels because of the fact that his character in the 1990 film Arachnophobia saves a town from a deadly infestation of spiders. So, who said that scientists don't have a sense of humor? Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the pelican spider. Alright, nature is crazy. Many of us have likely heard of animals that have the ability to appear like other scarier animals or things in order to deter predators, but have you ever heard of spiders that kinda look like pelicans? Madagascar's pelican spiders have this sort of crazy illusion of a neck and and a beak, and one of the newest discovered species just might be the most pelican-y of all. The researchers who discovered this new species published their findings in 2018, along with the information that this spider species is likely endemic to Madagascar, meaning it can't be found anywhere else in the world. In our number 9 spot today, we have the glass frog. This little frog, also known as Diane's bare-hearted glass frog, or even a Kermit frog, is a lime green little guy, but his surprise comes when you turn him over to look at his underside. This is when you'll realize that he is completely see-through, allowing us all a look at his internal organs. These guys make their home in the rainforest foliage of Costa Rica, and they were found by researchers at the Costa Rican Amphibian Research Center. They did appear similar to other kinds of glass frogs, which is why it took so long for them to be distinguished as a different species, but as it turns out, there is a 12% divergence from their nearest relative. Another really interesting thing about these frogs, that is also another reason why they went so long without being discovered, has to do with their call. Their call is said to sound much more similar to an insect rather than a typical frog. In our number 8 spot today, we have the transparent sea slug. This new species of sea slug is quite a captivating creature. They belong to the grouping called nudibranches, which are soft-bodied marine gastropod mollusks. These type of creatures are known to shed their shells after their larval stage, and they are best known for their incredibly bright and striking colors, although this new species is more transparent looking. These sea slugs were discovered and unveiled by the California Academy of Sciences back in 2014, and they were described from a specimen found near Waterfall Bay in Malaysia, although they've also been found near the Philippines and Japan as well. These slugs are quite slow growing, and they love to chow down on soft-bodied corals for a tasty meal. In our number 7 spot today, we have the ray spider. This new species of ray spider was discovered just this year in 2022, and it is thought to be endemic to a certain region of Japan. These spiders are known for their conical webs that are quite distinct from other spider webs. The thing about ray spiders is that they aren't filter feeders at all. For someone who is terrified of spiders like I am, their way of hunting is a lot more frightening than I would like to imagine. These guys stretch their webs into a cone-like shape, like I mentioned before, and then they hold on tightly while they wait for their unsuspecting prey to waltz on by. When it's time to strike, they either shake or they let their webs fly out in order to catch their delicious meal. While these spiders certainly are battle ready, the good news is that this new species is quite small, which means that we can all rest easy. In our number 6 spot today, we have the new sea slug. Another new species of sea slug. These guys were first classified back in 2018 after they were found in the coral reefs of Indonesia. While kind of strange looking, these creatures are also pretty dazzling, as they have either a bright, beautiful purple color or they are white with orange spots. It took so long for them to be discovered because of their similarities to another species of sea slug, but after some DNA sequencing, however, it was realized that these similarities are more of a mimic rather than a close relative. It is said that these sea slugs are quite adept at survival skills, as they have a whole pile of strategies that they rely on. These include mimicry, camouflage, and cryptic patterns. In our number 5 spot today, we have the living branch. Alright, looking at a picture of one of these guys, you'd think it's just a large stick, but instead it really is a new species of very, very large stick bugs. These guys were discovered in Vietnam in late 2014, and they have been wowing scientists ever since. These guys can grow to be over a foot long, which makes them one of the largest insects ever found. So while I was researching for this video, I had the question, how are stick bugs born? Do they come from eggs? How many eggs would a stick bug have? You know, just regular stick bug questions. As it turns out, I was a little in over my head, because apparently female stick bugs will lay over 100 eggs, some species laying as many as 1,000 eggs per gestation. That's wild. That's potentially a lot of stick bugs. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Araguayan river dolphin. This is a newly discovered species of Amazon river dolphin that is actually causing quite a bit of debate in the scientific community. These residents of the Amazon River are the largest of all river dolphins, and adults end up acquiring a strange pink coloring, which can be more prominent in the males. In 2014, based on nuclear microsatellite and mitochondrial DNA data, as well as noticeable differences in skull morphology, these guys were classified into their own distinct species, but not all scientists are yet convinced that they are separate. For those who do believe that it's its own species, they believe that the split from their closest relative came about 2.08 million years ago. In our number 3 spot today, we have the fire-tailed tedi monkey. Back in 2011, scientists were looking for animals in southern Brazil when one scientist noticed an unusual monkey with a bright reddish-orange tail. This of course sparked some interest and led to some more trips to observe these monkeys, which in turn led to the discovery of a new species. This new species is a kind of tedi monkey, which are small tree-dwelling primates that have about 30 species throughout South America. These guys live in small family groups that consist of a monogamous pair of adults and usually 2 or 3 of their offspring, and these families often spend most of their time grooming each other. One of my favorite things about these creatures is how they will often sit next to one another on a branch while their tails intertwine endearingly. While it is too early in their discovery to know for sure if these guys are endangered, experts warn that they are not yet out of the woods, and if they aren't endangered, they might be soon because of their limited habitat that is currently facing threats of deforestation. In our number 2 spot today we have the fanged frog. This species of frogs are endemic to northern and western Sulawesi, Indonesia, and they were discovered in late 2014 by scientists from the University of California, Berkeley. These frogs are actually fanged frogs as they have 2 projections on their lower jaw that they use when they get into fights. One really unique thing about this species of frog is in relation to their reproduction process. They have internal fertilization and they give live birth to tadpoles. This is different from other frog species that give live births, as they normally produce froglets, which is the cutest little thing I've ever heard. Little froglets. What? It is said that these live tadpoles are likely protected early in life by their frog fathers. I mean, I personally wouldn't risk getting in a fight with a fanged frog, would you? In our number 1 spot today we have the ancient panda. This is likely the newest discovery on this entire list, but it's a discovery that came about 6 million years too late. By using a set of fossilized teeth that were actually found in the 1970s, researchers recently just uncovered a new species of panda that lived all those millions of years ago, but this panda was quite different from what we know today, and that is because these guys made their home in Bulgaria. The fossilized teeth are shiny and black because they were found in coal deposits, but researchers were still able to date them back to the Mycenaean age, which took place 7.2 to 5.3 million years ago. These pandas would have lived in humid forests and swamp areas, and they are comparable in size to pandas today. These teeth, however, aren't quite as sturdy as those of pandas today, so rather than tough bamboo, it is likely that these guys had a diet of softer plants. This discovery is just one that shows us how little we really know about ancient nature and how much there is to uncover even still today.